محمد وآل محمد صلوات. سورة مباركة الفاتحة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباءهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع ذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فأخذنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أين ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجر وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلية إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت معون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا شمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر والليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاع إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا نطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة وإذا هم جميع الذين مهزرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيء ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتاز اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مزي ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننقصه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا وحق القول وللكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللنا وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سورة مباركة الفاتحة.
ورزبلا صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآله. آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک میں عام ہے. آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک ہجوم میں عام ہے. آ گئی زینب مدینے میں بپا کوہرام ہے، آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک ہجوم عام ہے، نم بر کو لاش بیٹے کی دکھا کر بولے شاہ، نام بر کو لاش بیٹے کی دکھا کر بولے شاہ، یہ ہے سغرا کی تمنا، اس کا اکبر نام ہے، آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک ہجوم عام ہے، بے ردا زینب ہے سورج آج کیوں چھپتا نہیں، بے ردا زینب ہے سورج آج کیوں چھپتا نہیں، وہ مدینہ تھا نبی کا، یہ دیار شام ہے، آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک ہجوم عام ہے، کہتی تھی فضا چھینی جاتی ہے زینب کی ردا، کہتی تھی فضا چھینی جاتی ہے زینب کی ردا، یا علی آؤ مدد کرنا تمہارا کام ہے، آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک ہجوم عام ہے، کربلا کا واقعے کو ایک مدت ہو گئی، کربلا کا واقعے کو ایک مدت ہو گئی، سید سجاد کی آنکھوں میں پھر بھی شام ہے، آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک ہجوم عام ہے، زینب مضطر کی ایک دل پر بہت تر داغ ہے، زینب مضطر کی ایک دل پر بہت تر داغ ہے، حاضر دربار ہونا موت کا پیغام ہے، آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک ہجوم عام ہے، آ گئی زینب مدینے میں بپا کوہرام ہے، آج قبر مصطفیٰ پر ایک ہجوم عام ہے۔ آواز بلند سلامت.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. رے ہوئے ہائے رے شاہ خراساں کو مارا، شاہ خراسان کو مارا، کھلا انگور زہر ہے مارا رے ہوئے، ہائے رے شاہ خراسان کو مارا، رو رو کہتی ہے فاطمہ قمی، بھیا کیسی جدائی یہ ہو گئی، آج لوٹی گئی میں خدایا رے ہوئے، ہائے رے شاہ خراسان کو مارا، کر کے ہیلے مہمانی بلایا، روضہ احمد کا تم سے چھڑایا، زہر دے کے وہاں تجھ کو مارا رے ہوئے، ہائے رے شاہ خراسان کو مارا، چین آلے نبی نے نہ پایا، قبر میں ہے زہرا کو رلایا، ویرا کر دیا گھر اس کا سارا رے ہوئے، ہائے رے شاہ خراسان کو مارا، جا کے توس بسایا اے بھائی، پھر نہ ملنے بھی تم سے میں پائی، ٹکڑے ہوتا ہے میرا کلیجہ رے ہوئے، ہائے رے شاہ خراساں کو مارا، جد کو آپ کے بستر سے بلا کربل میں آہ اسے مارا، خیمہ تک سرور کا جلایا رے ہوئے، ہائے رے شاہ خراساں کو مارا، علی زین العبا کو ستایا، توک باری گلے میں پہنایا، شہر و بازاروں میں بھی پھرایا رے ہوئے، ہائے رے شاہ خراسان کو مارا، बस कर तू दुआब गमगी तू उस जल्दी पहुंचा दे इलाही जाके देखूं मैं रौज़ा रिज़ा कार होए हाय रे शाहे खुरासां को मारा सभी शियों की हाजतें बरला दिखा सबको तू रौज़ा रिज़ा का कसम अहमद नबी की खुदाया रे होए हाय रे शाहे खुरासां को मारा हमद वल सलावत अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली
For Muhammad wa al Muhammad salawat. Can you please recite Surah Fatiha for Marhum Abari, who passed away today and was buried in Afghanistan, Kabul. Marhum was the father of Farishta Ismail and father-in-law of Muhammad Ismail. Surah Al-Barakat al-Fatiha. Can you please recite also Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Zohra Kulsuma Alana, who passed away and was buried last Thursday. Marhuma Kanize Zahra Ghulam Hussein, Marhum Muhammad Hussein Walji, Marhum Munawar Walji, and all our Marhumin. Surah Al-Mubarakat al-Fatiha. Quick announcement, as many of you will know, the madrasa normally have an annual majalis program, which is where all the students take part. So the whole program is organized by the madrasa students. Inshallah, that madrasa majlis will be taking place tomorrow here at the center at 10:30. So mu'minin are requested to attend in numbers to encourage our students, the future of our Jamaat. So I encourage everyone to please attend. So it's tomorrow 11 o'clock start, but we request everyone to be here by 10:45 so we can start promptly at 11 o'clock. Par Muhammad wa al Muhammad salawat. Can we invite Maulana to the member with a loud Nari Salat? Bar Muhammad wa al Muhammad.
Remembering all our marhumin, this Azim night of the Shahadat of our 8th Imam, Ali ibn Musa Rada. Wassalamu alayhi. Rahimallahu man qara. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على خاتم النبيين والسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما على الإمام المنتظر، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط، لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. صلوات. Condolences to all of you on the occasion of the Shahadat. And before we can start, allow me to recite. اللهم صل على علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى الإمام التقي النقي وحجتك على من فوق الأرض ومن تحت الثرى الصديق الشهيد، صلاة كثيرة تامة زاكية متواصلة متواترة مترادفة كأفضل ما صليت على أحد من أوليائك صلى الله عليك يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرضا. Basically, this is a special salawat for the 8th Imam. So when you go to Mashhad to recite the Ziyarat of Imam Rida alayhi salam, when you pick up that Ziyarat Nama, the book, and when you recite the Ziyarat, try to turn pages forward. Go to the index and try to look at things beyond the Ziyarat. You will come across with treasures of knowledge and ma'rifat. Because after the Ziyarat of Imam Rida alayhi salam, there's a special salawat for the 8th Imam. Mentioned in the Ziyarat that after you finish the Ziyarat, don't just walk away. There's a special salawat. He recites Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad, correct? That is a general salawat. There's a special salawat for the 8th Imam. It is there. Once you finish it, then it is at salatan khasatan. A khas salawat for the 8th Imam, which is this one that I recited on the night of the Shahadat of our 8th Imam. Having said that, this being the night of the Shahadat, every Imam, and again, because it's the night of the Shahadat, we will be focusing on this Imam himself and his personality to find out more about it. But today, we usually mold our discussion based on the audience that we find and see. And this audience that I see is a very educated audience. So today will be a little more academic to cater for the needs in terms of intelligence and understanding. So bear with me and try to understand today's message and today's understanding with respect to the 8th Imam. With regards to the 8th Imam, or with regards to any of the Imams, one thing that is, there are certain specifics with every Imam in their lifetime, certain specific characteristics associated with them. Say, for example, in the life of the 11th Imam, a specific salient feature about the life of the 11th Imam is that while all the other Imams had the Wilayat Takwiniya, had the powers to perform mu'jizat and miracles, supernatural stuff because of the authority that Allah has given to them. But amongst all the Masumeen, the one Imam who has a maximum number of ilmul ghaib and supernatural and mu'jizat in his lifetime is the life of the 11th Imam. We're not saying the Prophet did not show. We're not saying Amir al-Mu'minin did not show. We're not saying Imam Ridha did not show. But when you look at all the life history of all the Imams, the maximum number of, I can tell you so many things off the cuff, but then we'll go off track. But the maximum number of mu'jizat that was shown by Ma'soom was the 11th Imam. Similarly, when you talk about the 8th Imam, all the other Imams have talked about the maqam of wilayat, maqam of imamat. But when it comes to the 8th Imam, specific salient feature of his life is that he has talked about the imamat and wilayat in a sense that is very different. The profundity of his talk, the profundity of his explanation, of his ma'arifat, of the wilayat and the imamat is very different. And today I want to take you down in this one valley of the 8th Imam. There are numerous, right now, I don't know if how many of you have ever read, there is one probably a A4.5 long hadith of the 8th Imam, in which he talks about the characteristic of an Imam, who an Imam is. You need to read these things. It's out of this world. It takes you in a different valley. It just removes all the corruption and superstition that is there in your mind to show you who exactly an Imam, when an Imam is basically he's describing himself. It's a long hadith. Imam is this, Imam is that, Imam is this, and you wonder, wow. At times people say, Imam se dua mangte, Imam kabul nahi farmate. The 8th Imam is saying, you have problems, you go to your father. You have problems, you go to your mother. They solve your problems. They give you whatever you want because they love you. Your Imam loves you more than your parents love you. The love of an Imam for his followers is several 100,000 times more than what your parents will love. So when a child falls and the mother feels the pain, Imam says, don't compare that pain to what we feel when you fall down. For people like you, you can say, हाँ सबसे ज़्यादा मोहब्बत जो है बच्चों को माँ की निस्बत है, माँ की माम था. Because you don't know who we are. When you fall, your mother says, ouch. We say 1,000 times ouch, because our love for you is more than what your mothers can love for you. Anyway, sometimes we get a time that is, to discuss in some very elaborate sessions. Today we've got one session. Today I want to focus on one specific thing. And I will start off with, all of us know that when one of the salient features of the life of the 8th Imam was when he was summoned by Mamun to Khurasan. And that's how he eventually landed from Medina to Khurasan, to Mashhad. All of us know that when he was going, on the way he passed through Nishapur. And having passed through Nishapur, he delivered that famous hadith of his. Kalimatu la ilaha illallah hisni. That the sentence, the belief of la ilaha illallah, there is no God except me. Allah says, Kalimatu la ilaha illallah. The sentence, la ilaha illallah, there is no God except Allah, hisni. Hisn means fortress, means a castle, means a fortified place. It's my fortress. Man dakhalaha, whoever enters this fortress, it means whoever enters into la ilaha illallah, amina min adabi. He will be protected from my adab. And you want to know what adab is? Go home, open Surah Al-Hajj, the first 2 verses. Read it, go to tafsir, read the tafsir. You know what adab is. Then you will know. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the adab. Today is about Imam Ridha alayhi salam. So it says, whoever enters into this fortress of la ilaha illallah amina min adabi. But today I want to break up this entire scenario of how this entire event unfolded and how it unfolded. And you will see the secrets and you will see the mysteries and the asrar that are related to Masumin alayhi salam. Riwayat says he's summoned from Medina, he's on his way to Nishapur. But you do realize this hadith that we talk about when he says Kalimatu la ilaha illallah hisni, it is called Silsilatul Dhahab, the hadith of the golden chain. You've heard it. The reason it is called the hadith of the golden chain is that when Imam was narrating this hadith, So how it unfolds is that he is being brought from Medina. He has to go to Khorasan. The route goes through Nishapur. Nishapur from olden times had been the center of academics in the Islamic world. It was the hub of the Islamic world academics. Like today it's Saudi Arabia or Cairo. In those days for the Shiites, it was Nishapur. You had muhaddithin galore. In those days as well, the Nishapur was Shia in orientation. And it was the hub of academics, muhaddithin, scholars, ulama. They were all in Nishapur. When they came to know Ibn Rasulullah is coming, the son of the Holy Prophet is coming, all of them said, wow, Imam Ridha is coming, the son of the Prophet. So they all gathered together. The Imam came and he's now passing through the bazaar of Nishapur. When he's passing through the bazaar of Nishapur, the market of Nishapur, these people, the muhaddithin, gather together. And Riwayat tell us the numbers are so great that, and they had certain very illuminated, luminous personalities amongst the muhaddithin who had planned that we will ask Imam Ridha to narrate a hadith for us. So people knew about it and they were wanting to hear shafahatan. All along they would be hearing from people saying, Sami'atu, we heard Imam Ridha say this, or Sami'atu, and we heard Imam Ridha say this. Waqala al-Imam Ridha alayhi salam, Imam Ridha said this. But this is the first time people in Nishapur are actually going to, because Medina is in Saudi Arabia, Nishapur is in Iran. This is the first time he's coming over. So now they want to hear it from his own words. So the Riwayat tell us they had arranged, in olden days, you don't have fountain pen and ball pen. So they would have something which is called, Urdu mein bhi kehte, Farsi mein bhi kehte, qalamdan. Place where they would put the pens. In order to write the hadith, they had arranged 24,000 qalamdans. That means imagine, more than 20,000 people were there waiting for Imam. We're not talking about 500,000. 24,000 qalamdan. One person will take one pen. One person cannot take 10 pens. One person, one pen. 24 pens means at least a minimum 24,000 people only to write the hadith. Then you don't know how many people are just there to listen. Imam comes, he passes. As he passes in the bazaar, there's a huge crowd. 24,000 is not a joke. You go to Najaf, yeah? You go to Shari Rasul, you go to Shari Saduq, Shari Sadiq, you go to Shari Tusi. Those narrow lanes, these are not big lanes. These are small lanes, these are not those massive lanes of Karbala to accommodate those people. Small lanes, 24,000 in that place, jam-packed. The caravan of Imam comes. These four people come to him and says, Ibn Rasulullah, we place you under the oath of your holy fathers. Tell us the tradition from the Holy Prophet. So he was sitting on a camel. There was a hawdaj, the place where you sit inside. So he moves the curtain aside. He puts his head out. Then he says this hadith. But before he says it, he starts off with the sanad, this chain of narrators. Sanad jo hoti, which is chain of narrators. He said this, he said this, he said this, he said this. Imam Ridha starts, Sami'atu an Abi. I heard from my father, Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim, who said he heard from his father, Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, who heard from his father, Muhammad ibn Ja'far, who heard from Muhammad ibn Ali, who heard from his father, Ali Zain al-Abidin, who heard from his father, Imam Hussein, who heard from his father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, who said he heard from the Holy Prophet, and the Prophet says he heard Jibreel yaqul. سمعت عن أبي الكاظم وهو سمع عن أبيه وهو سمع عن أبيه, and it goes on. So I heard from Imam Kadhim heard from Imam Sadiq heard from Imam Baqir heard from Imam Zain al-Abidin from his father Imam Hussein, who heard from his father Ali ibn Abi Talib, who said, Sami'atu, I heard the Holy Prophet say, that Jibreel said, that Allah said, Kalimatu la ilaha illallah hisni, the kalima of la ilaha illallah is my fortress. I'm just preparing a background. It's my fortress. Whoever enters into the fortress will be saved from my punishment. Because of the kind of people in this sanad, because of the kind of people that are there narrating the tradition, this tradition is referred to as silsilatul dhahab. In Arabic, silsila means chain. Zanjeer कहते हैं ना, chain कहते हैं ना उर्दू में. Zanjeer को Arabic में कहते हैं silsila. So the ladies wear the neck, it's called silsila. You have long chains to protect your your cycles. It's called silsila. Silsila to dhahab. Dhahab means gold. It's a golden chain. The golden chain because all of them are masoom. From the 8th Imam to the Holy Prophet, to Jibreel, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hence this tradition is called Hadith Silsilat al-Dhahab. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So now he's asked this question. He says, he mentions the traditions, and you've heard this, and I'm just preparing a background because now I'm going to move very quickly, so pay attention, please. So he answers this, and then he puts his head inside, and the curtains draw. And now they're all writing, 24,000 people. And all of a sudden, while they're still writing, because he mentioned it, speaking is faster than writing. Kalimatu la ilaha illallah hisni, man nakhala hisni, amin adabi, they're writing. All of a sudden, they see the curtains come out as cast aside again. Imam puts his head out and says, min shuru bi shurutiha. But this what I have said, that whoever enters into La ilaha illallah, who enters into the Tawheed of God, whoever enters into the oneness of God, whoever accepts and attests to the oneness of God, he's entered into my fortress. Whoever has entered into my fortress, I will save him from my adab. It says, Bishurutiha, but there are conditions to it. Everything has a condition. Everything has a condition. You can't do things without condition. This too has a condition. وَأَنَا مِن شُرُوطِهَا. And I am one of the conditions. Belief in me is one of the conditions. Obedience to me is one of the conditions. Without me, you cannot enter into the Tawheed of God. Now understand, we're going to open this very dramatically, and you will notice this. But even in this Nishapur, one small incident I want to tell you in the life, because this is not usually talked about, nor is it usually read. People busy rehte apni life mein, kahan padhne ka time rehta. When he was in Nishapur, very quickly, when he was in Nishapur, he goes to a place, a person's house to rest. Because he didn't just pass by and run away, go away. He rested, then he went in, then to the bazaar, and then he continued. The forces, the soldiers of Ma'mun were there. So the place where he stayed in, so you heard about Nishapur, the water, that is the mu'jiz of Imam Rida alayhi salam. We don't want to discuss. You know how that water was generated. And then the Qadamgah, that is also mu'jiz. There's another mu'jiz of Imam Rida in Nishapur, which people don't usually know. He rested in a house of an individual who was afterwards referred to as Pasande. Pasande means somebody who's liked. That is because the house in which Imam lived and rested for some time and liked it, the owner of the life was called Pasande, means somebody who was liked by the Imam, his house. While the Imam was over there, he brought some food to eat. Among them was badam, almond. So he takes the almond, he eats the almonds, and then he picks up the almond, goes into one corner of the garden. He puts that almond in the garden, in that garden. He puts it into the ground for it to germinate, and then from there he goes away. And then while he's going into the market, these people come. Okay, can you tell us the hadith? Then he says, hadith, silsilatul dhahab, ana min shurutiha. I am one of its reasons, one of the conditions. Without me, you cannot enter the tawheed. And then he goes on. Now, this mu'jiza, what happens is that normally, if you have a look, almond trees take 3 to 4 years to grow. For it to give the starting almonds, for it to reach its peak takes 7 to 8 years. Riwayat says, the moment Imam put it, within a year it grew. And within a year it started giving almonds. And the almond that it would give, the trees would give, that tree would give, had shifa in it. So it became ma'ruf at that time. Anybody having problems of sickness, they come and eat that almond. So they would go to Pasande's house. They say, can you give me an almond? I'm having eye ache. They would take the almond, put it on the eye, it would become good. I'm having fever. Eat the almond, he would become good. Lady is having trouble delivering the child. They would take the almond, the delivery would be good. It had come to acquire shifa because the hujjat of God picked up one piece of almond and germinated it. Okay, that's gone. That's just one of the fadila because we need to go today's the Shahadat. The question, the entire majlis is based on 2 questions. And you will see things that come out of these 2 questions. So Imam comes, he's asked a question, the Imam answers the question. He starts off by mentioning the sanad. قال فلا سمعت إلى وقال الله عز وجل كلمة لا إله إلا الله حسني. So he mentions the entire sanad, 1. And second, he mentions this particular hadith, 2. Now I want to ask you 2 questions. I want to pose 2 questions, and then we will open up each of these questions. Because in history, you just read a story and go, it becomes the story. Then you don't get any message out of it. In history, if you want message, you need to keep asking why and what. Till you don't ask why, till you don't ask what, you will not get to know the answer. So you read, oh, mashallah, he came, he said a hadith, he passed away, Nishabur, Qadamga, water, fala, fala. Oh, very nice. What did you learn? So what that water? 10,000 miracles Imams have done. So water is coming. So what's so great about it? If somebody sitting on earth can break the moon, the water is water. Yeah? Shakul Qamar, splitting the moon. You need to ask why and what. Two questions. First question, why did Imam emphasize so much by mentioning the hadith, the sanad? سمعت عن أبي الكاظم وهو قال سمعت عن أبي الصادق وهو قال سمعت عن أبي باقر وسمعت عن أبي السجاد, and on and on. What was the need for him to go into all that distance and say, I heard it from my father and he heard it and he heard it, and it goes up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This man is the Yabna Rasulullah. 24,000 people, just writers, have come to see him. That means they know his rank, they know his martaba. All that he had to say, Qala Rasulullah. And everybody would have said, yes, we accept it. What was the need for him to go into that protracted discussion of highlighting every single individual? What was the need? You think somebody, if he had said, Qala Rasulullah, everybody would doubt it? No, you're shouting. You're not lying. We need to know the hadith, the sequence of narrators. Would somebody would have said that? They've come to listen to him. They call him as Yabna Rasulullah, or son of the Holy Prophet. So when he says Qala Rasulullah, they have to accept it. But he still goes on to this. Why? And the second question, out of the hundreds and thousands of hadith that we have in our academia, why did Imam pick up this particular hadith about Tawheed? This hadith is about Tawheed. Kalimatu la ilaha illallah Tawheed is my fortress. That means la ilaha illallah, the oneness of God is my fortress. You enter into this fortress, you're safe from my fire. It is Tawheed. Why did Imam select this? And we've got massive repertoire and reservoir and repository of ahadith. Huh? Don't take these things lightly. We've got a massive, we don't know what our Maraja do sitting in the house. You say, oh, he's an old man sitting. One of our books is a book called Wasa'il Shia. Heard about Wasa'il Shia, Zain? Wasa'il Shia. This book, Wasa'il Shia, is written by an author by the name of Muhammad ibn Hassan, Hur al-Amali. Very commonly is referred to as Sheikh Hur al-Amali. Different volumes have different chops and different this thing. 20 volumes, 28 volumes. This Sheikh Hur al-Amali is buried in the sahn of Imam Ridha alayhi salam. So you go to Imam Ridha alayhi salam. You need to visit these people now when you go. You need to do tabarruk, you need to take inspiration, you need to take their du'as. It's not just that Imam says, you only come to me. Sheikh Baha is over there. Aminul Islam, Sheikh Tabarsi is over there. One of the persons buried is Sheikh Hur Amali. In the Sahn, Sahani Hur Amali. Next time you go, ask the Khadim, where is Sahani Hur Amali? Koja, Sahani Hur Amali, if you can't speak properly. Arabic, Farsi, Koja, you can see one. Koja, everybody knows. Even Urdu people can say Koja. Say, Koja ho Sahani Hur Amali. He'll tell you this is where. Go, there's a cover of Sheikh Hur Amali over there. This Sheikh Hur Amali wrote this Wasa'il Shia. In some print, 28 volumes. 35,868 hadith in one book. Over numerous volumes. You don't count book in terms of volumes. The book is one, numerous volumes. 35,868. You know what our ulamas have done? हमें लगता है हम एक नमाज शब क्या माह रमजान में पढ़ लिया हमने जो है बहुत तीर मार दी इस्लाम के लिए एक एहसान कर दिया परवरदिगार आलम पे one whole month of Ramadan I've recited salatul layl अब जन्नत मुझ पर वाजिब है खुदा भी जो है मुझे जहन्नम में नहीं डाल सकता इतना एहसान कर दिया हमने परवरदिगार 30 days नमाज शब यानी 2 months whoever recites for 30 days नमाज शब I recited in the month of Ramadan. This Sheikh, where we are. Sometimes, you know, you feel we waste our life. Honestly, I'm telling you. This man, Sheikh Hur Amali, what's your name? Yes, Muhammad. Sheikh Hur Amali, 35,868 hadith. He took 18 years to write. 18 years to write this book of Wasa'il Shia. It's one of the most Kitab, one of the most important reference books together with Kutub Arba, Usul al-Kafi. 18 years, 35,868. He lived in the year 11th Hijri, the Islamic 11th Hijri. 35,000. The question over here, question number 2 is, why did Imam pick up only this book, only this hadith? And this is just one hadith of 28 volumes. We're not even going to Bihar al-Anwar with 110 volumes. We're not even talking about Kutub Arba. We're not talking about Hadith al-Shia. We're not talking about any of these books, Safinatul Bihar. One book, 35,800. And Imam had to pick up this one. Why? There has to be a reason, yeah? These are representatives of God, Hujjat of God. They don't work like us. Random, jo man mein jo hai, wo Maulana ghar pe aa rahe, kuch bhi banata. Very nice, thank you. I'm just giving an example. There is some reason for it when they do these things. Once we answer these 2 questions, you will see it. The first one, why did Imam go to the lengths to mention the traditions, the narrators? You see, in the Quran, one of the usloob, one of the methodologies that Allah has employed in the Quran in order to convey His message, amongst numerous things, is He talks about numerous things: science, geography, history, cosmology, embryology, XYZ, science, physics, botany, zoology, but with the purpose to guide mankind. Amongst the methodology used, in addition to these sciences that are there in the Quran, one of the things that He uses are the qasam in the Quran. وَاللَّيْلِ وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينِ. Qasam, He takes an oath. When we take oath, is what? To tell the other party, I'm telling you the truth. Khuda ki qasam jo hai, maine tumhe kal phone kiya tha. Even though it might not register in your missed call, but nahin, khuda ki qasam, maine kal phone kiya tha, aapne uthaya nahi, missed call kiya. When we take qasam, it is because to highlight to somebody what we're speaking is correct. But this is not applicable to Allah. When you read the Quran, what do you say? What do you say? Sadaqallahul Aliyul Azim. Sadaqallah. God has spoken the truth. So you can't say that he needs to prove himself by taking qasam of Wal Asr. Oh, by the qasam of Asr, I'm speaking the truth. That's irrelevant. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Because he's Sadiq. So why does he use it? Ulama say one of the reasons Allah uses these qasam is to highlight the importance of what he's going to state after the qasam. In a qasam ke baad jo cheez aa rahi hai, it is so important that God says, I want to emphasize these points. So certain great signs in my creations, I want to pick them out and make qasam on them so that you realize what is coming after the qasam is something very important. Not to prove I'm right, but to highlight to you, to get your mind fine-tuned, your brain fine-tuned that what is coming after this is very important. So pay careful attention. Look at Surah Shams. Surah Shams starts off with 11 qasam. This is the only surah which has 11 qasam on the trot. وَالشَّمْسِ وَالضُّحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا طَلَاهَا fulan, till he comes. 11 qasam Allah takes. Allah taking qasam. And then he says, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Remember this nafs of yours, we have given it the understanding to do good and for doing bad. Now what is coming after the qasam is this. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. 11 qasam I have taken, the Lord of the worlds, to highlight to you this soul of yours. If you pamper it and take it to the wrong side, you will face eternal perdition. You keep it nice and fine, you will have a good life in the hereafter. 11 qasam to prove this one point. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You get me what I'm saying? 11 qasam. So now the people are thinking, 11 qasam Allah is taking. That means now what is going to come outside after this is going to be very important. And then Allah says, remember, take care of your soul. You mess your soul, you're going to mess your akhirat. You take care of your soul is going, you have a good akhirat. Very important, because that's what our entire life is all about. We end up in hell, what? Khalas, khatam, finish. There's nothing remaining. There's no second chance, my friends. So the importance of qasam is to highlight what is coming afterwards. This is exactly what the Imam wanted to prove to the people. Look, I could have easily said, Qala Rasulullah, and you would have accepted me that, oh, the Holy Prophet said. But I want to tell you what I'm going to tell you is so important. You need to know every single individual in the chain of narrators through which this very important messages come from God. Through Jibreel, through the Holy Prophet, through Amirul Mu'mineen, through Hussein ibn Ali, through Zainul Abidin, through Muhammad Baqir, through Jafar as-Sadiq, through Imam Qadim, and now from my mouth, Kalimatul la ilaha illallah hisni. The Tawheed of God is what is going to save you. Understand, it is not an ordinary thing. And hence I have to respond to you by telling you every single individual so that your mind gets tuned to the fact this is not a small item that I'm going to tell you. That's point number one. The message is very important. And so highlighting this is not. Second, when we're talking about why did he mention all these items? You have to put Imam Rida's alayhi salam's life history into perspective. He is the son of Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. And Imam Musa al-Kadhim is the son of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. After Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and after Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam, two major problems came into the Islamic world. Very quickly I'm going. But on Saturday I can speak for an hour and a half also. Call the Sunday, call Saturday, yeah, today's Friday. Why am I rushing? Anyway, you have to come tomorrow also at 11 o'clock, so it's not. After the 6th Imam and after the 7th Imam, two major problems came in the Islamic world. After the passing away of the 6th Imam was the fitna of the Ismaili sect. Those who took the imamat of Hazrat Ismail, the eldest son of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. From the Ismaili sect became the Batiniya sect. Ismailism is a Batini sect. You know what's a Batini sect? The Batini sect is, and there are numerous, the Sufi is also part of the Batini sect. There are numerous Batini sect amongst the forefront of the Ismailis. The Ismailis are referred to as the Batini sect because the entire gamut of sects, 73 sects in Islam, those who fall under the Batiniya sect, they let go of the Shariat, the external Shariat. Namaz, chhod do. Roza, chhod do. These are zahiri cheeses. These are external things. We are Batini people. What is their belief? It says, leave the zahir. Zahir is not important. Namaz is zahir. It is not important. Fasting is zahir. It is not important. Hajj is zahir. It is not important. Zakat is zahir. It's not important. What is important is the soul, the batin. We have to have an internal batini connection with our Imam. If that connection is established, then namaz goes to waste. Is not required. Salat goes not required. Hajj goes not required. Jihad goes not required. All that is required is batin. And that's why you'll find the Batiniya group will never be adhering to the Sharia. They will not pray namaz. Where do you see Ismailis pray namaz? They pray twice a year on the Eids. Ask me, I know. Half of my family is Ismaili. I hope they're not listening. Massive problem afterwards. They don't pray namaz twice a year. I know. Up to some time back, I could even recite their dua that they recite in the Jamaat Khanas. Hajj too. Very few people who living with the Shias, they go for Hajj. Fasting, they only fast on certain days of the year when the Chandrat the day when the night when the moon is sighted, if that falls on a Friday, that's when they fast. They call it Bij. In the month of Ramadan, they don't fast. They only fast on these days. Because they have abandoned the Zahiri. They call themselves the Batini. So you tell them, but look at your Imam. They've got 10,000 divorces having taken place. Metaphorically. I mean, he should not sue me because it's on the papers. So we're not concerned with what he's doing. He's got hotels that sell alcohol. That's none of our concerns. Baba, there are horses with gambling. That is not our concern. Our concern is the batin. His soul is pure. That is what we're concerned. These are called the Batini sect. Sufis also fall into this sect. This was one problem that after the 6th Imam, people fell into the quagmire of following Hazrat Ismail and the Ismaili sect and the Batini sect. After the Shahadat of the 7th Imam, again a second group came up called the Waqifiyya sect. Now we don't want to go into that. That is again a major problem. They rejected the imamat because of the money that the wakala, the wakils of Imam Kadhim al-Islam, the money that they held after the Shahadat of Imam Kadhim al-Islam, they turned rogue. So this money, if he attends to the imamat of the 8th Imam, all this money will have to go to him. Reject him. There is no 8th Imam. This is 7th Imam. The imamat is stopped. See, waqifiyah. Waqif means to stop. You go to Arab countries, yeah, when they say stop, it's a qif. Stop. Dubai. Qif. Stop. Waqifi, those who stop. Waqifiyah is the group of those individuals who say imamat is stopped at the 7th Imam. Now, in order to counter these ideologies, the deviant ideologies, he had to put it on record that, look, I'm the member of a family that doesn't stop at Imam Sadiq, that doesn't stop at Imam Kadhim. I'm a member of the family that after the 6th Imam, the Imam is Imam Kadhim alayhi salam. And after the 7th Imam, it's Imam Ridha alayhi salam. The imamat has not stopped at the 7th Imam. The imamat has not deviated to Hazrat Ismail from the 6th Imam. And to emphasize this to the people, he had to write it down. He wanted this to be written into the book so that 1400 years later, sitting over here in Chelmsford, we are discussing, we know exactly that Ismaili is not the deviated ones that have gone from Hazrat Ismail. We have to go from the 6th Imam to the 7th Imam. And this imamat doesn't stop at the 7th Imam. It goes to the 8th and the 9th and the 10th and the 11th and the 12th. How would this be possible if it is not recorded? He says, I will make sure it is recorded. 24,000 pens going to write, I'm going to make sure it is written down. The hikmat of the Masoom. And the third thing, because of this, he wanted to pass the message to Mamun. Mamun, you've called me to your place, but understand, I'm not an ordinary man that you're summoning. I belong to part of that silsilat of dhahab. I'm one of the links of the golden chain. Be careful what you do to me. So this is part number one. Why did he mention that? The second question comes is, why out of so many thousands of ahadith did Imam refer only to the Tawheed? Kalimatu la ilaha illallah. Why? Understand this, and then we will go to a certain problem that's plaguing our communities in today's time. See, when Islam came, Allah had a very different approach on various aspects. So the first time the Holy Prophet came, after that, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Iqra bismika alladhi khalaq. Surah Iqra. Once Islam came, Allah had a very clear approach to how the issues was when he was facing, that Islam was facing when it came into the community. This community is a Jahil community. It's called the era of Jahiliyyah. This is a community of Mushrikeen. This is a community in which the entire Kaaba is filled with idols. Small, small idols, big, big idols. Idols, people would go for rizq to one idol, rain to another idol, shifa to another idol, marital problems to another idol, fulan to another idol, all these various idols. It's a mushrik community. It is a jahil community. Islam has now come to rectify this. So Allah had a very unique approach. Certain issues, he says, I know the fitrat of man. I cannot change the fitrat of man in an instant. Even with taqween, it doesn't work. It has to be coming from their minds. Remember we talked about basirat and coming from within? So for example, there were certain things that part of the Shariat, he's come to change the world. He sent his messenger. He knows this is the last messenger. This is the last message. This is going to remain up to the day of judgment. Yes? But still he was very patient. This namaz, salat, in madrasa you've learned, yeah? As-salat amududdin. It is the pillar of Islam. Yeah? In khubilat ma sibaha, in rudrat ma sibaha. If it is accepted, all the other amal are accepted. If it is rejected, all the amal are rejected. You know how long it took for Allah to implement and make it wajib upon the people? 10 years after the Mabas. 10 years. That means the Prophet comes and says, La qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. I'm announcing my new prophethood. All these idols that you've got in the Kaaba, useless. Throw them out. Come to one God. That takes place in Bi'athat. 10 years after that is the Mi'raj taking place. Prophet goes to Mi'raj, Allah says, now I have made salat wajib on you. 10 years. The same namaz which is said as salat amududdin, it is the fundamental, it is the base, it is the foundation on which my entire edifice of my religion is there. For 10 years he did not make wajib. Look at the patience of God. 10 years it will not be wajib. Something that is regarded, if this is, I don't accept this, I'm not going to accept any of your amal. So I'll wait for 10 years for it to be implemented. Alcohol. Everybody knows alcohol is haram. With Agha Hashim, we were discussing yesterday about alcohol. How long do you think alcohol? And you know, the riwayat about alcohol, amazing. I mean, you won't find, Riwayat says in Jahannam there's a special place in which two categories of people will be kept inside. There are numerous traditions about the punishment. It says, but the most punishment in terms of furu'ud-din is specifically for two people. Sharabul khamr tarikus salat. One who consumes alcohol, one who does not praise namaz. It says that you don't want to enter into that. You don't want to enter into that. Tarikus salat, one who does not offer his prayers. Sharabul khamr, one who consumes alcohol. The same alcohol in which if you pick up the Tawdi al-Masal of Ayatollah Sistani, you will find growing grapes for making alcohol haram. Plucking grapes for making alcohol haram. Putting into baskets haram. Transporting it haram. The bottles to be made for putting alcohol into it is haram. Washing the bottles haram. Printing the labels haram. Sticking the labels onto the bottles haram, filling the bottle haram, putting it onto crates and by means of lorries and trucks, transporting it is anything to do with alcohol is haram. You won't find one instance other than alcohol that the shiddat of hurmat is so much. Everything associated with is haram. But it took years for Allah after the Holy Prophet came, years before he said alcohol is haram. It's patience. But despite the fact that these were the things in which Allah had patience, He gave them enough time for it to seep into the society. There was one problem that He says, I've got an absolutely short fuse on it. That I will not compromise. And that was Tawheed and Shirk. From day one, it starts off. He starts off his mission to the Holy Prophet, says, go to the people and say, La ilaha. There is no God. Negate all other gods. Illallah. For this, there is no stoppage. There is no fuse. There is no time. Salat, I will wait for 10 years. Alcohol, I will wait for years. But shirk, day one, not acceptable. And that is why the shu'ar, the slogan of Islam is, La ilaha, first negate all other gods. Illallah, except Allah. And that is the Quran says, Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bih. One sin that Allah will not forgive is shirk. Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bih. All other sins you come to me on the day of judgment, I will forgive. You come with shirk, my friend, you're not going anywhere except the fire of hell. So Tawheed was so important in the eyes of God that there was no short fuse for Tawheed. No explanation, no excuse for it. Having understood that the Tawheed was important, why did Imam pick up this Tawheed in that entire hadith that he wanted to say? To explain this, I want to take you to Maha Rajab. So you understood now the importance of Tawheed. For all other things, God has patience. For Tawheed, He doesn't have patience. Day one, He says, first you negate all of the gods, then you come to me. If you have any other gods with you, I cannot take you. Negate all the gods, day one. Salat after 10 years. Alcohol after years. But when it comes to Tawheed and Shirk, no compromise. In month of Rajab, which is the start of the Amal and preparations for Maha Ramadan, if you go to the Amal Mushtaraka, every month in Mafatihul Jinan, it starts off with the Amal that are common for all the days of the month that you are in. So for example, in the month of Rajab, one of the common Amal is that Ya man urjuhu li kulli khair wa amanu sakhatu inda kulli khair. Then you say Ya man ya dal jalal wal ikram. Yeah, that's common amal. These are called common amal mushtaraka. That is to be done on every night or every day. Then you have khususi amal that is there for certain nights. 15 Shaban, Ziyarat of Imam Hussain. That is makhsus for 15 Shaban, 15th Rajab. Yes, Dua Mujir, 13, 14, 15. Yes, Amal Dawood, specific. So in every day, in every month, Sheikh Abbas Akumi has got two babs, two chapters. One common amal to be done on every night, one specific amal to be done on specific nights. In that common amal, there are 6 du'as that Sheikh Abbas Akumi has narrated. Go pick it up. You've got English translation of Mafatil Jinan. When you open it, in the amal, in the common amals, amal mushtaraka, you will find there are 6 du'as that Sheikh Abbas Akumi has mentioned that has to be recited every day. Dua number 5 is where I want to draw your attention to. This dua number 5 of the common amal of the month of Rajab has a specific connotation to it. Because this is not an ordinary dua. Dua number 5 is a dua that has been sent and written directly by the Imam of a time, Sahib al-Amr, Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Askari, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. So dua number 5 in the month of common amal of the month of Rajab. It's a dua written specifically, written by hand, not dictated. Written by hand by Imam al-Zamana, and this is during the time of the Naib, the second Naib of Imam al-Zamana. The first Naib of Imam al-Zamana was Uthman ibn Sa'id. The second Naib is Muhammad ibn Uthman, his son. This is at the time of the second Naib. And Sheikh Abbas Qumi writes this. Kharaja min nahiyat al-muqaddas. Min nahiyat al-muqaddasa. This has come from Imam al-Zamana during the niyabat of the second Naib, Muhammad ibn Uthman ibn Sa'id. Imam writes this dua and gives it to the second Naib and says, give it to my Shiites to read it. So now, this is not something that has come beyond the time of our imamat. We are in the imamat of the 12th Imam. We owe our allegiance to the 12th Imam. On the day of judgment, however you might say, Ya Haidar, Ya Hussein, on the day of judgment, you and I have no option except to be in the group of Imam al-Zamana. Because Quran says we will call all the Imams with their ummat. We belong to the ummat of the Imam al-Zamana. You have Habib ibn Madar, he'll go with Imam Hussein. You have Salman Farsi, who will go with the Holy Prophet. You've got Ammar, who will go with Imam Amirul Mu'mineen. But we will go with Imam al-Zamana. The same Imam in whose imamat we will be gathered together on the day of judgment has given this. Now I want to read out this to you, to show you what it mentions about Tawheed. And you know what exactly it is all about. And you can go and look at the translation. I'm going to put out certain things for this. So Imam says to Muhammad ibn Uthman, says, take this dua, give it to my Shias, tell them they have to recite, not on specific day, every day in the month of Rajab. The 5th dua. Parts of it I'm just reading out to you. He says, As'aluka. Now Imam is telling us, he's saying it and he's saying, no, you need to recite this every day in the month of Rajab. He says, turn to God. This is part of the duas. I'm just picking up a segment. He says, As'aluka bima nataqa fihim min mashiyatik. It says, oh Allah, I turn to you based on the authority that you have put in these individuals. Who? The Ahlul Bayt. This is in reference to the Ahlul Bayt. فَجَعَلْتَهُمْ مَعَادِنَ كَلِمَاتِكَ. And you have made them reservoirs of your knowledge. وَأَرْكَانًا لِتَوْحِيدِكَ. And you have made them the foundations of your tawheed. Arkan, everybody knows. Arkan, rukn ki jama arkan. Arkanan li tawheedik. You have made them the root, the pillars of your tawheed. That means if your tawheed had pillars on which it is based on, these individuals, the Ahlul Bayt, are the pillars of your tawheed. فَبِهِمْ مَلَأَتْ سَمَاءَكَ وَأَرْضَكَ. By means of these individuals, you have created the entire world, the skies and the earth. Something resembling, something that we keep. This is Rajab, once a year. But when he says, for bihim, and by means of them, mala'at sama'aka wa ardak, that you've created your sama and ardh. You remember something? Something called hadith kisa? Something called hadith kisa that we recite? وَبِعِزَّتِي وَجَلَالِي إِنِّي مَا خَلَقْتُ سَمَاءً مَبْنِيًّا وَلَا أَرْضًا مَدْحِيًّا وَلَا قَمَرًا مُنِيرًا وَلَا شَمْسًا مُضِيًّا. Yes, I've not created the earth, I've not created the sun, I've not created the moon, I've not created the seas, I've not created the ships that move into the ships. إِلَّا فِي مَحَبَّتِهِ هَؤُلَاءِ الْخَمْسَةِ الَّذِينَ هُمْ تَحْتَ الْكِسَى. Except because of the muhabbat of these individuals who are under the kisa. The same thing Imam is mentioning in the dua. He's saying, for bihim, and by means of them, you created the entire universe. Then he goes on to add that sentence that I want to take you. By means of them, for bihim mala'at sama'aka wa ardak, and by means of them, and because of them, and in their muhabbat, and in their sadaqah, you created the heavens and the earth, hatta dhahara an la ilaha illa ant, till it became clear to the people that you are the only God in this universe. Yana matlab kya? Matlab ye ke Imam wants to say whether it is Imam Ridha in the time of Imam Ridha, or whether it is Imam Zamana in our times, that understand the Tawheed of God is bound by us. We direct people into the Tawheed of God. We are the foundations of the Tawheed of God. Because of us, God has taught Tawheed to you. Without us, you would not know what Tawheed is. What is understood is now that if you want to enter into the fortress of God, you need to get Tawheed first. And in order to get Tawheed, you first need to go to the Imams and the Ahlul Bayt. Meaning what? Meaning to enter into the fortress of God, you have no option except to go through the Imams. And this is what Imam Ridha was saying, Ana min shurutiha. I am the shart if you want to enter into the fortress of God. It's ajib things that the Imam is saying. And he specifically gave a pause so that people understand that why is he giving a pause and then starting on. He says it's so nice to say I'm saying La ilaha illallah, but you can't get La ilaha illallah without me. You cannot get La ilaha illallah without my father Kazim. You cannot get La ilaha illallah without Sadiq, without Baqir, without Sajjad, without Hussein, without Ali and without the Holy Prophet. To get to La ilaha illallah, you need to go through all of this. Then you will enter into La ilaha illallah. And then you will be saved from the adhab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you understand that tradition that you keep hearing from the time when we were small. Every time a Zakir would come, an Alim would come, he would keep saying, Man mata wa lam ya'rif imam zamanihi mata mitatan jahiliya. Have you not heard this? That anybody dies without knowing the Imam of his time has died the death of a Jahiliya. Why? Because of this. What was the difference between the Jahiliyat age and the Islamic age? What moved the era from the Jahiliyat age to Islamic age? That one sentence of the Holy Prophet, Qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. Say La ilaha illallah, say there is one God. That means the Imam at that time is the person who takes you to Tawheed. If you don't know the Imam, Mata, a person dies, Walam yaraf Imam zamanahi. He doesn't know his Imam, Mata mitatan jahiliya. He dies the death of a person who has not gone into Tawheed. It is because of the Imam you enter into Tawheed. If you don't know your Imam, there is no Tawheed. If you don't know, that is what this tradition says. If you die without knowing your Imam, you've died the death of a Jahiliyyah, because in Jahiliyyah there was no Imam. There was no Tawheed. It is when the Prophet came and said, Qulu la ilaha illallah, Tawheed came. You get me what I'm saying? And hence it becomes very important. If we have to enter into Tawheed, now I'm coming to my final message. If you want to enter into the Tawheed of God, you have to know the Imam. If you die without knowing the Imam, you may 10,000 times say, I know the Tawheed of God. Allah will say, you cannot, because you've not known my Imam who would have guided you to Tawheed. You think you have entered into the Tawheed, you're not into my Tawheed. You think you have entered, I don't think you've entered. And on the Day of Judgment, it will not matter whether I think I've entered, it's whether he thinks I've entered. That is very important. और भैया इन दुनिया में डंके पे जो है, डंके के चोट पे मैं कहता रहूं, मैं जो हूं ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह कहता हूं, मगर कयामत के दिन को खुदा ने कहा तुझे लग रहा था तू ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह कहता, मेरे नजदीक तो ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह कि अहल ही नहीं था तू. You were not part of it. And you know where people have gone wrong in this? People think they are into Tawheed, but because they don't have the Imams, their Tawheed isn't it bin. You know, Ahl Tasannun, what is their belief about God? They look at one ayat of the Quran, Ar-Rahmanu alal arsh istawa. Allah is sitting on the throne. And they formulate their own aqaid. Because they're so far away from the Imams. Yeah, Ahlul Bayt. So you know what is their belief, Muhammad? According to the Ahl Tasannun, God has a body. And he sits on the throne. And the throne is so big. But then the body of God is so heavy that when he sits on the throne, every time he sits, it begins to creak. This is not this thing, this is there in the Raqaid. You pick it up, Bana. I'm sitting on the mimbar and saying, you know, I've always told you, ask references. Their belief is God has a body. He sits on the throne. It's a massive throne. But despite having a massive throne, Allah has a very heavy body. So whenever he sits on the throne creaks. And he's got beautiful Goldilocks type hair, golden hair, curly hair. Yeah, I'm not taking from a pocket. This is what they say. He's got Goldilocks type hair, golden hair that is curled. This is their belief of God. You know why? And this is their Tawheed. This is what the Prophet says. This is what the Imam says. Man lam ya'raf imam zamanahi mata mitatan jahiliya. These people think that they know Tawheed, but being away from the Ahlul Bayt, this is the Tawheed they follow. This is the Tawheed. God having a body. You look at Surah Qaf, Surah Qaf, Surah number 50. In Surah number 50, there is one verse in which Allah says, وَإِذْ نَقُولُ لِجَهَنَّمَ, a time will come when we will pass the judgment. These people go to Jahannam, these people go to Jannat. When everything is done, sab khatam ho gaya. There's nobody on the plains of Qiyamah. Everybody is gone. Some people in Jannat, some of them in Jannat, the others in Jahannam. Then Allah says, وَنَقُولُ لِجَهَنَّمَ, this is Quran, yeah? You can't contest me on the Quran. I'm reading Quran to you. So وَنَقُولُ لِجَهَنَّمَ, we will turn to Jahannam and say, هَلِ امْتَلَعْتِ, are you full now? This is Quran, huh? Surah Qaf, 32 or 37 ayah number. It says, وَإِذْ نَقُولُ, we will turn to Jahannam and say, وَنَقُول, we will say, هَلِ امْتَلَعْتِ, are you full? Abhi sab to de diya hame, peet bhar chuka tera. Are you full now? So the Quran says, the Jahannam will come and say, هَلْ مِن مَزِيد, is there more of your disobedient servants that I can punish for their disobedience to you in dunya? This is Quran. Under this ayat, the Ahl al-Tasannun have a riwayat. They say when this question is asked to Jahannam, Halim Talati, are you full now? And Jahannam will come back and say, Hal min mazid, is there any more? Mazid to Urdu mein ka lafzi hai na. और कोई मजीद है जिसको तू भेजना चाहता है मेरे अंदर ताकि मैं अजाब दूं तेरे नाफरमान बंदों को. I can punish your disobedient servants. According to them, their riwayat in their tafsir, God will turn to him and says, abhi tak pet nahi bhara tera. Then Allah will put one leg into the Jahannam. Once he puts his leg into the Jahannam, riwayat says according to them, then the Jahannam will say, imtalati, ab mera pet bhar chuka, ab aur koi gunjaish nahi hai mujhe. बाबा वो खुदा के जो खुद अपने पैरों को जहन्नम से नहीं बचा सकता, आपको और हमें क्या बचाएगा? This is the tawheed they're talking about. This is what Imam says. Kalimatu la ilaha illallah becomes hisni, becomes my fortress of Allah only when ana min shurutiha. You have to pass through the silsilatul dhahab to go to God. Without them, you will end up with Goldilocks, God who puts his leg into the fire of hell. Ab samajhe meri baat? Do you understand? But the problem ye nahi hai. Lakum dinakum waliya deen. Chaliye, chhodiye. Aap apne deen ke saath, hum apne deen ke saath. The problem is that when we Shiites also go into that quagmire, then we have a massive problem. Want me to tell you one example? Okay. Normally this is not a dialogue, yeah? Normally the tradition has been set up in such a way that I keep speaking, you have to keep listening. Even if you're feeling sleepy, you have to keep listening. It's set up that way. We kya kar sakte? You can't change the setup. But I just want to ask you, and now I'm just becoming oblivious of the elders. Yeah, I'm talking to you guys. I want to, because this is becoming prevalent in our communities. So I need answers from your side. You need to fold your legs first. It's not for me. Over here, Bibi Fatima comes. And when Bibi Fatima comes, you can't spread out your legs. It's not good. Yeah. So nothing to be worried about. Don't worry about it. I'm not offended. It's just that when you go to somebody big, yeah, we go to your headmaster, you won't be putting on legs. So, Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. So where were we? Sorry? Yes, the question. Sorry. पहले मुझे इसकी जरूरत नहीं पड़ती थी, but now with age I keep forgetting. देखिए भूल गया. So I have to carry it. कभी जो देख के फिर याद आए. वरना तो this is of recent I had to start. क्या कर सकते हैं? बुढ़ापा है, keep forgetting. शायद इमाम रज़ा की बादाम मिल गई होती तो का बादाम मिल गया होता तो जो सही होता. But anyway, I want to ask you a few questions because of a problem that's there in the community. The wudu that we do today, do you think that is the same wudu that the Prophet was doing? Based on what Ayatollah Sistani from the tradition says. Yes or no? Yes. Same wudu that we are doing. If this is the same wudu that the Prophet was doing, then was this the same wudu that Amir al-Mu'mineen was doing? Correct. Because Amir al-Mu'mineen follows the Prophet. So the wudu that Amir al-Mu'mineen was doing was the wudu of the Holy Prophet. Correct. The salat that the Holy Prophet was reciting, was it the same salat that Amir al-Mu'mineen was reciting? Or was he reciting something different? Same, yeah? Prophet, Amir al-Mu'mineen. When was the Vilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen announced officially? Ghadir? Yes? So while tidbits was being said right across his 23 years of his life. It is at the time of Ghadir when that verse came, Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh. O my Prophet, inform to the people, Ma unzila ilayka min rabbik, what I have told you. Wa illam taf'al, if you don't announce this, فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ, you've not fulfilled your risalat and prophethood. Correct? So the announcement came in the fag end of the life of the Prophet. Correct? So the imamat of the Prophet, official announcement was at the end of his life, nearing the end. This is in Ghadir. Ghadir of the year 10 Hijri. Ghadir and the year of 10 Hijri. Correct? This is after the Hajjatul Wida. So 18th of Dhul Hijjah of the year 60 Hijri. So 18th of Dhul Hijjah to the end of the month, that is the end of the year. Dhul Hijjah, end of Dhul Hijjah. Then starts Muharram, the whole of Muharram, and Safar, and 28th of Safar. So the whole of Muharram, whole of Safar, and 12 days of Dhul Hijjah. So 2 months and 12 days. After 2 months and 12 days, after announcing the imamat of official announcement, based on the hadith, on the ayat of the Quran, the Prophet announces, then he goes away from this world, correct? Yes? Okay. If this is correct, now I want to ask you a question. When the Prophet did the namaz, the Prophet was doing the namaz, Amir al-Mu'mineen was doing the namaz. And to prove this point that you said, that yes, Amir al-Mu'mineen's namaz was the same as the Prophet, there's an incident that after 25 years of the Khilafat of Abu Bakr, Umar and Uthman, when Amir al-Mu'mineen became the Khalifa, and he put his headquarters and the capital in Kufa, one of the Sahabi of the Prophet became very old. He was a companion of the Holy Prophet. He lived with the Holy Prophet. He prayed namaz behind the Holy Prophet. For 25 years after the Prophet, he was still in Medina. So now he's grown old. After 25 years, after the murder of Uthman, Amir al-Mu'mineen becomes a Khalifa, so he's now in Kufa. This person moves from Medina, comes to Kufa for some work. When he reaches Kufa, it's time for Dhuhr and prayers. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, as a Khalifa, is leading the prayers. Suniega. He's leading the prayers. This person comes and says, oh, Ali is leading the prayers. Okay, I will pray behind. It's time for namaz. So he prays behind Ali, the namaz. When the namaz finishes, he's looking very bewildered. So people say, why are you looking bewildered? What has caused you to become so astonished? He said, the namaz that I recited made me very astonished. He says, why? You are the Sahaba of the Prophet. This should not be a different to you. You have prayed behind the Holy Prophet. He says, yes, that's what has made me astonished, bewildered. He says, why? He says, after 25 years, I was reminded of the namaz of the Holy Prophet. 25 साल के बाद मुझे जो है रसूल खुदा की नमाज याद आई. Praying behind Ali. So it means that Ali was praying the prayers of the Prophet. That means now, from the time Bi'asat took place and that namaz became wajib 3 years before Hijrat. So after Hijrat, you have 10 years. So 13 years in Makkah, 10 years in Medina, 3 years before Hijrat, namaz becomes wajib. So 3 years and then 10 years, 13 years. In 13 years, the Holy Prophet prayed namaz? Yes, he prayed namaz. At the fag end, the announcement of Vilayat takes place. So between them and between the time namaz was ordained and the announcement of Vilayat, 13 years the Prophet was praying. Officially, Ali's imamat was not announced, correct? Officially was not announced because the official came when the ayat came down. That means the Prophet, when he was praying namaz in tashahud, he was not taking the name of Ali ibn Abi Talib. It was Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Because Imam the announcement of Wilayat of Imam has not taken place as yet. It's going to take place after 13 years. So the Prophet was not praying that namaz in which the name of Prophet Ali was there. Because now the name will come after the announcement has been made. The problem with us is this exactly, this Tawheed. They went and messed up by leaving the Ahlul Bayt. We mess up by sticking to the Ahlul Bayt. Unnecessary adherence, which is incorrect adherence to Ali. And we say we should have the name of Ali wherever the name of the Prophet is there. But for 13 years, the Prophet prayed namaz without the Shahadat Salis. So now you want to pray your namaz or you want to pray the Prophet's namaz? You tell me that. Whose namaz? The Prophet did not pray that namaz with the name of Ali. So why are we insisting that we should have the name of Ali in the tashahud? What is this entire controversy about the Shahadat Salisa that every time the name of Prophet is there, we should have the name of Ali? Holy Prophet never announced it because he was not ordained to announce the Wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. It was only coming about when that ayat came. When the ayat came, then the official nomination came. So for 13 years, he prayed without the name of Ali. The Prophet wants to pray without the name of Ali. You want to add it into the name of Ali. That is your religion, not the Prophet's religion. Do you get me what I'm saying? And this is where the problem arises. This is where the thing is, that we want to go ahead of the Prophet. We want to we say we follow Amirul Mu'mineen. We follow the Imams, but this is what happens. We mess things up. The Prophet is not doing something, we want to do those things. And hence, this is the problem that takes place. So you need to be very careful. Remember the talk about Basirat. Basirat is, this is what is Basirat. This is what we spoke about yesterday, to have the understanding of religion. Not just following religion and whatever. Oh, it sounds so nice that wherever the Prophet's name is there, the name of Ali should be there. But that doesn't work that way. That is your religion, not God's religion. Then the second question will come. But Shaykhana, you all recite the name of Ali in the adhan. So what's the difference between adhan and iqama? If it is not there in namaz, it should also not be there in adhan and iqama. Baba, adhan and iqama is different, namaz is different. Adhan and iqama mustahab, namaz is wajib. In namaz, if you recite with the intention that it is part of the namaz, then it becomes haram, it becomes batil. The moment you go into the grave, you're whipped, your namaz is batil. But if you're reciting adhan and you mess up with your niyat, because even Maharaja say, you can recite Ashhadu anna Aliyan Waliullah, but not part with the niyat that it is part of adhan. If you recite it as part of the adhan becomes batil. But if your adhan becomes batil, you're not going to be taken to task. It is like namaz al-subh and salatul layl. Namaz salatul layl, we may be getting awake to watch a match somewhere in Australia. But namaz ka waqt, salatul layl ka waqt, aya, chala gaya, we don't pray salatul layl. Why? Because we're not going to be asked in the qabr. But namaz al-subh, 2 minutes remaining, we rush to pray it. Why? Because we know you go down, you're going to get whips. Same thing is with adhan and iqama. It is mustahab. Even if it goes wrong, the ulama say, koi baat nahi, you will not be taken to task. But namaz, they say, make sure, don't say the name Aliyun Waliullah, because it is not part of namaz. If your niyat goes wrong and you consider it part of namaz, that namaz goes wrong. As soon as you enter into the grave, you're taken to task. Why did this namaz go wrong? And hence the ulama say, adhan and iqama, we are a little relaxed. Namaz, don't do it because it is wajib. Understand? Basirat is, this is what is basirat. It is not just that, oh, mujhe namaz padhna to bas kaise bhi namaz padh le. That is not what Islam wants. And hence we find out that these imams were the doorway to go to God, doorway to go to Tawheed of God, doorway to enter into the fortress of God to protect us. And you got so many traditions of imams saying, that when you come for my ziyarat, I will come for your ziyarat. You know that incident, I know I might go 5-7 minutes little, but just one understanding, you must know this. You know the Muassis, the founder of Hawza Ilmiya Qum, Sheikh Abdul Karim Hayari, he left behind a son who was also mujtahid. His name was Sheikh Murtada Hayari. The father set up the Hawza Ilmiya Qum, then he passed away. The son was also mujtahid, Ayatollah Murtada Hayari. He passes away. You've gone to Qum, many of the people, yeah? You know Ayatollah Marashi, the library of Ayatollah Marashi, Shahabuddin Marashi, that or Arif, amongst the Urafa. He's narrating because he was friends with Sheikh Murtada Hari, they were together. Sheikh Murtada Hari dies, and because of the friendship, Ayatollah Shahabuddin Marashi, big personality. Huh? When somebody asks him, have you met Imam Zamana? You know what he says? He doesn't say yes. He says the majority of the time I met him is in Jamkaran. That means how many times he's met Imam Zamana. He's saying after Sheikh Murtada Hayari died, I wanted to know what happened to him, because in my opinion, he was a very pious person. So he comes to me and tells me, he meets me. I said, Murtada, where are you? Such a long time. What happened? I need to know what happened on the other side. He's saying, I had a massive problem. He says, why? I'm very fast forward, I'm looking at the time. He says, when I died alone in the grave, I can't escape. I'm suffocating. I want to go, I can't. There's no control over there. It's only the control of God over there in the qabr. He says, I'm enclosed. And then, all of a sudden, I'm seeing 2 angels coming. Horrific. Fire is coming out of their eyes. Fire is coming out of in a shape, size. You know, if I was alive in the world, I would have had a heart attack. Very frightening. And they're coming and they're pointing towards me. And as they come closer to me, my fear keeps going. I want to shout because of the fear, the voice is not coming out. But when you get tired, you're frightened, the voice doesn't come out. I'm trying to shout, nothing is coming out. I'm trying to ask for help, there's no word coming out. They were coming to me and I said, I'm done. And all of a sudden I turned to God. Oh, Parvardigar, God, help me from this. It's too frightening, I can't bear it. This is a mujtahid, the son of the founder of Hawza Ilmiya, which is a factory of the Maraji and Mujtahideen. His son is saying. So they were coming, and I turned to God and says, God, help me, please. And all of a sudden, they're coming very close. The face, the entire haikal is so overpowering. And all of a sudden, I see a sound coming from behind me. The moment that sound reaches my ear, I'm feeling sukoon coming into my heart. And I turn, I see a light coming closer to me. As I see that light closer to me, I see these two people coming. Stop. These are Munkar and Nakir. Yeah, but you know, everybody knows Munkar and Nakir. Stop. This light keeps coming, and all of a sudden I see this light. When it comes near, I see it's a personality, it's a human being. It's a person. Luminous personality, waqar, dignity. Ek ajeeb shakhsiyat, ek ajeeb personality, persona. And he's coming and he's smiling, and I'm looking at him smile. And that is putting me into such sukoon. But the amazing thing was, as he was coming close to me, these two individuals started to recede. They started to go back. He used to come near and they kept going back. Till this person came right near me, and I found these two angels have gone. So now that component of fear is gone. And I'm looking at him, and his face is so dilnashin, is so beautiful, that the look of it is giving me such sukoon and tranquility. I turned to him, I folded my hand, I said, you come at the right time. These people, I don't know what they would have done to me. Thank you so much. So he turns to me and says, Murtada, did you not recognize who I am? He says, Aga, I don't know who you are, but I know you've saved my life today. He says, you don't know me, but I know you very well, and I know everything about you. He says, Aga, is it true? Who are you? He says, Murtaza, you don't know me. I'm Ali ibn Musa Ridha. Salawatullah wa salam. This is not the point where I want to bring you to. Something beyond that. This to everybody knows. Imam aate. He says, you didn't recognize me. I'm your eighth Imam, Ali ibn Musa Ridha. He says, I started to cry. He says, Imam, I don't know your pictures. I don't know, but you've come to my ziyarat. He says, you are a mujtahid. Did you not read that riwayat that I've said? Every time a person comes to my ziyarat, I will come to his ziyarat. He says, Mara, I forgot. I'm so sorry. But I really appreciate that you've come. Thank you. Falah, falah, falah. Mom says, don't worry now. I'm going, but nothing will happen to you. But before going, I want to tell you one sentence. This is the sentence I want to tell you. He says, Murtaza, you don't know, but I keep count. You have come to my ziyarat 38 times. I will come to your ziyarat 38 times. This is the first time I've come. 37 times more I will come. Whenever you're in a problem, I will pick you out of it. Don't worry about it. He gives him the number 38. Murtaza, tum hamari 38 martaba ziyarat ke liye. हम भी तुम्हारी ज़ियारत के लिए 38 मरतबा आएंगे. ये पहले मरतबा आ रहे हैं, 37 मरतबा और आएंगे. और जब भी हम आएंगे तुम्हें हर मुश्किल से बचा के ले जाएंगे. This is our Imam. Do you understand? These are the people who are the fundamentals of Tawheed. God has given them that power. You will handle my Tawheed. Through you, people will be guided. But in the end, what happens to him? You know, the poison that was given to Imam Ridha alayhi salam was much severe. We've got the third Imam being given a poison. Can you switch off the lights, please? We've got the third Imam being given the poison. We've got the seventh Imam being given the poison. But the poison that was given to the eighth Imam was far superior and more shadid than all the others. You know why? Because the poison that was given to Imam Hassan alayhi salam killed him after 3 days. The poison that killed Imam Kadhim alayhi salam let him live for 7 days. But the poison that was given to the eighth Imam, he was given in the morning, afternoon he died, evening he was buried. Can you believe it? Within half a day he was killed. This Imam Ra'uf, who says every time you come for my ziyarat, I will come for your ziyarat. But look what the Ummah is doing to him. You know, there's no time to go deep. Just 5 minutes and the Masahib is up. Just bear with me for 5 minutes. The time comes and Ma'mum calls him into his chamber. Ab Asal Tahirawi, who's his companion, says, Aka, don't go to him. He's going to kill you. He says, I have to go to him. But remember, when I go to him and I come out, notice how I am. If I don't have my Abba, my Ridha upon my head, you can come and talk to me. But if you see that the Ridha is upon my head, don't come and talk to me, because understand, he has poisoned me. Abba Salt Heravi saying, I'm outside the door of Mamun's quarters. Imam goes inside. After some time, Imam comes inside. Abba Salt Heravi says, every time I was praying to God, I don't see Imam with the Ridha on his head. But as soon as the door opened, my heart sank, because I saw as soon as Imam Ridha came out, his Ridha was on his head. And I'm saying, Ya Allah, what has happened to my Imam? He says, I began to follow the Imam, I saw there was certain strangeness, because every time Imam would walk, he would sit down for some time, then he would get up, then he would walk, then he would sit down. It felt as if the weakness of the Imam was so much that he couldn't walk more than a few steps at a time. He would have to come to the ground. I'm reminded of a time even in Karbala, the same situation took place. This was the time when Ali Akbar fell from the horse onto the ground, and Hussein now wants to go to his son. Riwayat tell his eyesight goes a little weak because of this anguish that is there of his son falling down. He tries to get up, he doesn't see where he's going, so he calls out, Ali, call me out, call me. Ali Akbar would call out, Abata, I'm here, oh my father. Hussein would get up, try to walk, he would come across a lash of somebody, fall down, again he would get up, Aina, Ali Akbar, where are you, call me. Ali Akbar would keep calling, Imam would keep hitting something, keep falling down, keep getting up till he reached Ali Akbar. Abba Salt Heravi says, Imam went into his quarters, I followed the Imam after him, I locked the door. At that time, Imam keeps calling out, my Jawad, come to me. Oh, my son Jawad, come to me. At this point of time, Imam Jawad is in Medina. When Imam Ridha was leaving Medina, he had a servant by the name of Muwaffaq. He gave Imam Jawad to Muwaffaq and told him, take care of my son. Now listen to what Muwaffaq is saying. He's saying, I had taken Imam Jawad to a garden so that he would not feel the absence of his father. All of a sudden I saw Imam's face changing. This boy of small age, he's still 6 and 7 years, a small age, and all of a sudden I see his face changing, his face becoming full of anguish. He turns to his Khurasan, and he tells Muwaffaq, by the power of Allah, by the oath of Allah, my father is being killed. Muwaffaq says, at that moment of time, he disappeared from my eyes. He disappeared from Medina. There Abba Salt Heravi is saying, now before disappearing, he calls out 3 times, Labbaik ya Abata, oh my father, I am coming. He disappears from the eyes of Muwaffaq. There Abba Salt Heravi is saying, Imam Ridha kept calling out, Jawad, come to me. Jawad, come to me. He says, all of a sudden I'm seeing a small boy sitting next to Imam Ridha with the head of Imam Ridha in his lap. I'm thinking, how did this child come into the room? I have locked the door. I have locked the windows. Imam Ridha, Jawad turns to him and says, don't be astonished at the power of God. The same God who got me from Medina to Khurasan also has the power to take me from outside the door to inside the house. But I will tell you one thing. Every person, every old man and fathers will testify. They always want that when you want to die, the elders, they should die next to their father, next to the son. The son should be sitting next to the father. This is what Imam Jawad did. He took the head of Imam Hussein into his lap. But I pray to Allah, never should situation happen whereby a young boy who is dying has to be near an old father. Ali Akbar and Imam Hussein. I don't know how Imam Hussein bore that situation. A young 18-year-old Jawan is about to die, and a 57-year-old father is watching his son die. But here, Imam Jawad took the head of Imam Ridha alayhi salam, started caressing his head, started kissing him. But my salams to that madloom of Karbala, when he fell into the Qatlagah, he is waiting, somebody come and take my head into his lap. Where is my son Sajjad? But Sajjad cannot come. Imam waited, but when nothing happened, Imam realized nobody was coming. Riwayat tell us, for what the akhaddahu ala turab, he put his cheek onto the burning sands of Karbala. Zainab is watching. She sees the son, the brother goes down, doesn't know what is happening, but suddenly she sees Shimr going. She calls out to Omar Asad, Omar Asad, stop Shimr, but Omar Asad doesn't stop him. Shimr enters inside. Janab Zainab starts beating her face. At that time, the land of Karbala begins to shake. The winds begin to blow. Jibreel calls out, Qad qutil al-Husayn bi Karbala. قد ذبح الحسين بك سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون مات الحسين.
نہ رکھ اب چادر بازوں پہ تو نیلے داغ چھپانے زہرا کی جان شرمانے نہ رکھ اب چادر پہ تو نیلے داغ چھپانے تیرے نانا کا یہ روزہ ہے کوئی کوفہ شام کی راہ نہیں زہرا کی جان شرمانے نہ رکھ اب چادر بازوں پہ تو نیلے جو چادر اجلی تھی تیری رنگ اس کا کیسے لال ہوا جو چادر اجلی اب سر پہ تیرے اے شہزادی اب سر پہ تیرے اے وہ کیوں موجود ردا نہیں زہرا کی جان شرمانے نہ رکھ اب چادر بازوں پہ تو نیلے داغ چھپانے 18 جو تیرے بھائی تھے کس بات سے تجھ سے روٹ گئے 18 جو تیرے دو شہزادے کیوں ساتھ نہیں دو شہزادے کیوں ساتھ عباس تیرا نہیں زہرا کی جان شرمانے نہ رکھ اب چادر بازوں پہ تو نیلے داغ وہ بچی جس کو سینے پہ شبیر سلایا کرتے تھے وہ بچی جس کو میرے آنکھیں ڈھونڈ کے ہار گئی میرے آنکھیں ڈھونڈ کے نہیں ملتا اس کا پتہ نہیں زہرا کی جان شرمانے ایک گنچہ دہن معصوم بھی تانا مسکا اصغر رکھا تھا ایک گنچہ دہن کیوں خالی گود رباب کی ہے کیوں خالی گود اسباب میں کیوں جھولا نہیں زہرا کی جان شرمانے یہ کون جوان ہے ساتھ تیرے ہیں کپڑے جس کے خون سے بھرے، یہ کون جوان ہے ساتھ تیرے، کن زخموں سے یہ چور ہوا، آنکھوں سے بھی خون رکتا نہیں، زہرا کی جان شرمانے، نہ رکھ اب چادر بازوں پہ، وہ کس حال میں کربل سے آئی اے زینب اپنے شہر میں تو، اب اس سے سوا افسوس ہو کیا، اب اس سے سوا افسوس ہو، پہچان سکی صغرا نہیں، زہرا کی جان شرمانے، نہ رکھ اب چادر بازوں پہ، تیرے نانا کا یہ روزہ ہے، کوئی کوفہ شام کی راہ نہیں، زہرا کی جان شرمانے،
امام رضا، امام رضا، امام رضا، امام رضا، یا ابن الزہرا، مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، میرے مولا میرے معصوم غریب الغربا، میرے مولا میرے معصوم غریب الغربا، میرے ہادی میرے مظلوم معین الضعفاء، ہو سلام آپ پہ سرکار میرے مولا رضا، مولا مل جائے رضا آپ کی راضی ہو خدا، مولا مل جائے رضا آپ کی راضی ہو خدا، سید و آقا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی رضا، آپ کے نام کے سکے کا امام ضامن، میرے بازو پہ بندھا رہتا ہے جو رات اور دن، اس کی برکت سے ہوئے کام ہے سارے ممکن، مولا محفوظ ہے اس سے میرا ظاہر باطن، مولا محفوظ ہے اس سے میرا ظاہر باطن، دلبر زہرا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی، سلام اللہ علی آپ جیسا نہ ہوا کوئی غریب الغربا، آپ کو شہر مدینہ میں بھی رہنے نہ دیا، قبر زہرا کی پیمبر کا بھی روزہ چھوٹا، آپ کو آپ کے بابا کی طرح قید کیا، آپ کو آپ کے بابا کی طرح قید کیا، لٹ گیا کنبا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی، سلام اللہ علی مولا۔ جس گھڑی چاند محرم کا نظر آتا تھا، کربلا والوں کا غم آپ کو تڑپاتا تھا، اور ماتم سے گریبان پھٹا جاتا تھا، آہ کرتے تھے تو یہ عرش بھی تھراتا تھا، آہ کرتے تھے تو یہ عرش بھی تھراتا تھا، روتا تھا کعبہ مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، اللہ مولا امام رضا، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی رضا، سلام اللہ علی، ہائے زہر انگور میں ظالم نے ملایا، ہائے ہائے زہر انگور میں ظالم نے ملایا، ہائے ہائے قبر میں فاطمہ زہرا کو رلایا، ہائے ہائے بے خطا شمع امامت کو بجھایا، ہائے ہائے ایک مظلوم کو سید کو ستایا، ہائے ہائے آسماں رویا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی رضا، مومنو اٹھتا ہے تابوت رضا کا آؤ، مومنو اٹھتا ہے تابوت رضا کا آؤ، دیں گی رو رو کے دعائیں تمہیں زہرا، آؤ آؤ سب مل کے کرے ماتم مولا، آؤ آؤ ایک بہن کو دے بھائی کا پرسا، آؤ آؤ ایک بہن کو دے بھائی کا پرسا، آؤ لیجیے پرسا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، یا غریب الغربا یا معین الضعفاء، یا غریب الغربا مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، سلام اللہ علی مولا امام رضا، امام رضا، امام رضا، امام رضا، امام رضا، یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین۔
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر الأحد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين، وعلى علي بن الحسين، وعلى أولاد الحسين، وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا، ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس، السلام عليك يا أنيس النفوس، السلام عليك أيها المضفون بأرض طوس، السلام عليك يا مغيظ الشيعة وزوار في يوم الجزاء، السلام عليك يا سلطان بالحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدي في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين السجاد، ومحمد بن علي الباقر، وجعفر بن محمد الصادق، وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم، وعلي بن موسى الرضا، ومحمد بن علي الجواد، وعلي بن محمد الهادي، والحسن بن علي الأسكري. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجه، وسهل الله مخرجه، وظهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا، وتمتئه فيها طويلا، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولا دعما. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.